Hello everyone and welcome back to Yemides Kitchen YouTube channel. So today on our channel we are going to be making a really easy Nigerian stew recipe. So I'm just going to go straight into it. You're going to need a small to medium sized saucepan. Pop it on your stove and turn the heat on to about medium. Then next you're going to grab your cooking oil. This can be whatever oil you prefer to cook with. I usually use vegetable oil. So I'm just going to go ahead and add in about 3 tablespoons of oil into my pan and allow it to heat up for about a minute or so. Next I'm going to add in some chopped onions. Now you don't need to do this step if you don't like to see onions in your stew. I usually chop half of it into my stew and then blend half with my peppers, but if you don't like this, that's absolutely fine. You can blend the entire onion together with your peppers. And then just make sure you give it a little stir around so that it fries properly for about 2 to 3 minutes. After 2 to 3 minutes of frying your onions, you want to add in your tomato paste. Now this tomato paste I made using 2 bell peppers, 1 Scotch bonnet, half an onion, a large onion, and 1 tin of plum tomatoes. But definitely you can use fresh tomatoes, and when I'm cooking sometimes I use about 4 to 5 big fresh tomatoes for this recipe. And then you just allow it to cook for about 10 minutes, and then once 10 minutes is over you just have a check to see how your tomato paste is looking. So mine's looking quite thick, and then I'm just going to add in 1 more tablespoon of cooking oil just so it fries a little bit more, as it's not done yet. Now make sure to give it a good stir very well so that it cooks, and at this point I'm not sure if you can see, but the tomato paste is actually bubbling, which means it's frying a lot more. So I'm just gonna keep stirring that and let it simmer, or no, let it cook for another 5 minutes. After 5 minutes you'll realize that your tomato paste has become quite thick. So at this point I usually add about half a cup of water, just because I really don't like my stew very thick. I like it to be quite soupy. So just gonna pour in half a cup of water and stir that up and allow it to cook for another 5 minutes. So it's time to spice up your stew. So I'm gonna add in about 1 to 2 teaspoons of salt, and then I'm gonna add in about 1.5 tablespoons of curry. Next I'm gonna add in about half a tablespoon of dried thyme, but of course you can always use fresh thyme if you've got any. And then I'm gonna add in 1 teaspoon of ground mixed spice, and then I'm gonna add in 2 cubes of Knor. Just gonna break it in and add it to my stew. And then just to add in a little bit more spice, I'm gonna add in about 1 to 2 teaspoons of white grounded pepper, and then just stir it all up into your pot and allow it to cook for another 7 to 8 minutes. So just before I allow it to cook, I'm just gonna have a cheeky taste to make sure that everything is great and to my liking. So at this point you can add in any more of the ingredients mentioned, or if it's perfectly fine then that's okay. For me, I think it requires a little bit more spice, so I'm gonna add in about another 1 to 2 teaspoons of dried chili flakes, and then just stir it in and now allow it to cook for 7 to 8 minutes. Now, as you can see, the stew is already bubbling really nicely, and that should tell you that your stew is almost done. Just give it a little stir just to make sure that it is to your thickness, and for me it's perfectly fine. And at this point I usually add in my meat, so I'm gonna add in chicken that I cooked today. So it's freshly cooked, but you can always add in frozen meat or frozen chicken or fish if that's what you prefer, and just add in all the different pieces that you want to add in and sizes, and just stir it in and allow that to simmer for another 5 minutes on low heat, and then your stew is ready. So after 5 minutes, you should see that all of the oil in the stew will come sort of to the top. I just want you guys to really see that properly. So when the oil just kind of comes up to the top, you can see it. It usually means that that's when your stew is done, it's ready, it's perfect. And for me, there's quite a little bit of oil, so what I usually do is drain out a little bit of the oil, and I kind of use it again for like cooking another stew or any other tomato based recipe that I make. And that's it, guys. That's your stew ready. Super easy, done. Don't forget to